Well, folks, oh my gosh, it looks like there's something going on here. I think that's my screen. Anyway, well, folks, I'm here and I'm getting ready to do a little bit more work on the Chevelle and running into some interesting issues. As you know, I'm putting an LS1 motor in the Chevelle, and I've read a lot about these LS1 motors. The conversion requires, special engine mounts. It requires a lot of things. You got to have a special oil pan. Or in what I'm using is a Cts-V oil pan. It's out of a Cts-V. I could only find a 2008 oil pan, and the preferred oil pans are pre-2008, and the reason is there's a bossing. I'll show that to you in a second. There's these bolt bossings for an oil cooler that that they've put into the later model, the later CTS-Vs. Had a little issue. So far I've set it in here twice, testing it out, and it was hitting the firewall, trying to get it in, trying to slide it into the compartment. It's a tight fit. I mean, 69 Chevelle is an older. I mean, they're not designed to take the LS1 motor. So we're going to do it, but it requires a little ingenuity. On Sunday, I was setting the motor in there to test it out, and the damn thing squashed my finger. Broke right, it popped it like you would a cherry with a hammer, and man, my finger went into, it burst. They had to sew the damn thing. I had to go get some stitches in it, and such is life. That's part of the hobby. But I only lost a day working on it as a result. They sewed it up, and I'm back to working on it. And here's where I am so far. Let me turn you around. Okay, that's my firewall. I had to cut what I had to do is the firewall was down lower. So what I did is and the motor, the bell housing on the motor was hitting the firewall. Couldn't get it down. In fact, the front of the oil pan, as you can see, was right here at this tape mark. It kept hitting there, and the back kept hitting the firewall. So what I've done is I cut it at an angle, as you can see, straight down. I cut it across, and I cut it straight up. Then I took that metal that was going down. It went down about another inch and a half, and I inverted it. I bent it up and rebent it back. It's as far back as it'll go because the heater box is on the other side of that. I've got about 1/4 of an inch behind this firewall now to the heater box, and it's hitting the top edge of where I cut it, if you can see right there. The factory engine mounts are forward on this car, which is actually kind of strange. I always found that kind of strange. It was the only way it seemed to go in there. Both of them were like that. Now if you take a look at the motor, okay, this is my motor. Let's see if I can get this thing. Here's the engine mount on it. I purchased this conversion plate right here. Okay, it's bolted on in 4 places. Here, behind the mount, and then up here behind the mount. And of course you got your standard motor mount right here. Okay. What's interesting, what I learned was this particular motor mount was the original motor mount for this car, and I'm lucky. If you take a look at the oval shape here and the size of it, if you look online, you'll find out that this is a motor mount for a 350 or 396 or a big block Chevelle. They have a taller one that's got a round hole. It's for a 307, and Obviously, this car didn't have a 307 in it. Probably had a big block, I'm guessing. The 307 motor mount will not work according to what I've read on LS1. This is the motor mount you want. Now, it's all beat up now because scraping that damn motor. It's a job. And I've got to get it to somehow, let's see if I can get this, to somehow go in this compartment and rest here. And the motor, front of the motor should, I'm hoping, be right here. I've measured it out. It should fit, but I'm going to need help. There's no way I can do this alone. I'm not going to smash my finger again. I've only got 9 left. I can't afford to lose those. Now, here's the motor, the oil pan for the Cts-V. This is the 2008, and this is how you can tell. It's got these embossings on the sides here, okay? And it also has a funny-looking adapter that goes on to where the oil filter goes. But that's a good thing because it looks like that fitting in the front can be removed, and that can be used for a oil pressure sending unit, and that's what I'm going to use that for. But anyway, this is the Cts-V Oil Pan, and believe it or not, that cost me like $300 on eBay between the pan, the windage tray, the oil filler tube, the gasket, and you know, all the peripheral crap that goes with it. It's expensive putting one of these little LS1 motors in an old car, but it should be nice. It should be nice. I'm glad I took the intake manifold off though. The guy who sold it to me took the NOx sensors out of this car. He also took the bolts that hold the tray, the valley, into it. And another thing he did, I don't know if you can see this, but the LS1 has a crossover. It's a 4-point crossover. The original motor, and I'll see if I can get it posted, the picture posted on here. The original LS1. Let's see if I can make this a little easier to look at. This is the coolant crossover line. It goes from here across to here, and in the back of the motor it goes from here across over to here. Okay, now the original motor had what they call a spider cooling. It's called a coolant crossover vent system. Essentially, what happens is these motors build up a lot of heat. So to get rid of the heat, this coolant system allows steam to go up into this spider system. It goes through this hose into the throttle body, out of the throttle body. That warms the air in the winter for these things. Out of the throttle body, back to the radiator. The radiator is supposed to be, I believe, lower than the crossover pipe system. So it's going to be interesting how I managed to hook this up. A lot of these guys are just dumping it right into the water pump. Okay, they drill a hole here, and they put a AN fitting there, and then dump that steam into the water pump directly. I'm not going to do that. I bought a nice radiator, aluminum 4-core radiator for this LS1. It has a separate line in it, and I'm going to hook it into that. What more can I tell you? It's been a hell of a job. It's been a hell of a fucking job. But I don't mind. Now I wanted to show you something. You remember when I told you guys, that's for my cigar. Remember I cut this and welded it all the way around using a template? I did it out front on the driveway, and the driveway was not level ground. Now I'm sitting here in my garage, right? The garage is level because I pulled the Chevelle Chevelle into the garage because what happened was a buddy of mine's selling his house, so he said, hey, you can bring the Camaro over here and put it in my garage while the house is for sale, and so hopefully all winter. And that lets me put the car in the Chevelle in the garage and do work on it in the winter, which is really nice. But take a look at this bubble. Take a look at that. Do you see that? That sucker's almost perfect. And you know what? It might be perfect because what I did was I checked the concrete. And the concrete, if I can move this, nothing ever goes easy for me. It's always complicated. See if I can slide this. This is a plastic pad for me. The concrete is close. The concrete is level. Concrete is level. So the fact that it's within the bubble, but just a hair off, tells me, it could tell me a lot of things. It could tell me that the suspension's a little crooked. It could tell me that something, tires are a little off, who knows. But what it does tell me, that the fact that it's that close, is that frame rail that I installed is almost perfect. It's right on. That should not affect the radiator core support or the alignment of the fenders at all. That core support turned out beautiful. Another thing I haven't mentioned to you, or I had mentioned earlier, but I wanted to bring you up to date on. This is my new quick ratio power steering box. Okay, I took the old one I took off. The old one I took off was 17-to-1 ratio, gear ratio. That means it was like five and a half turns, lock to lock, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm not quite sure. This is 12-7-to-1 gear ratio. It's about 2.5 turns lock, well, maybe 3 turns lock to lock. It's a lot better steering than the original one. Now, so you know, this gearbox comes out. I mean, comes out of between 1993 or 4 to 1998. That's the latest. Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's a Saginaw steering box. The Jeep and the GM use the exact same bolt pattern. To set it up, and the only difference is that it has metric connections for your high pressure and your return oil lines, or power steering lines. That's a good thing, because the Corvette LS1 setup, their new power steering pump, it's metric, so the lines will function. I just have to manufacture lines to make it work. Now, another thing I had to change was my rag joint. The factory rag joint for the Chevy, it's SAE, it's standard. This is metric. This came out of I want to say mid-80s Chevy pickup truck, but it's a direct bolt-in. It's a direct bolt-in for this gearbox to connect to this steering column. So there are modifications that you can do for a Chevelle, which makes it nice. It gives you that modern day technology, quick ratio steering. Of course, LS has I don't have them. I wish I did. I have disc brakes, but the LS1 has 11-inch disc brakes, dual piston. They're really nice. The only problem is you have to have a 16-inch or larger wheel, and I wanted to keep the original, Rally SS wheels. So mine are just a 69 SS brake system, power brake system. But anyway, she's in the garage now. I'm working on it. I've sanded the dash down. The windshield, I pulled the windshield out. I've sanded the dash. I'm painting the dash down. This is going to be the same color turquoise as the rest of the car, and that's why I've got it taped off. There's my modified tunnel. I think that looks pretty good. it is not welded yet. All that is just been hammered and dollied to where I need it to go. I need to build the side, cut the side plates out. The side plates will tell you how much has been pushed back, how much what the modification is with the rebending of this. But that'll give me more room to get the motor in there. Anyway, Project Chevelle is moving forward. I'm happy about it, Let me tell you something. It gives me nothing but pleasure to work on this car. When you work on a classic and you try to put in today's technology, there's nothing cooler. Nothing cooler. Anyway, guys, when I weld it up, I'll bring it back. Right now, I've just got it hammered and dollied. I still have to weld it up, grind it, and then I'll paint that in, the firewall, and I think it'll be okay. I'm hoping to get the motor in on Tuesday. That's willing, that's God willing. So we'll see, it's all part of the fun of it. So till then, till I get more, I'm going to shut this thing off. But we'll get back to you. All right. Well, I'm back. I said I'd bring you back when I get more, and I got more. I spent all day yesterday working on this thing, and I've set the motor into the car. And I thought I'd give you some of the highlights. I mean, let me tell you something. Putting an LS1 motor into a Chevelle, I guess there's no right way, there's no wrong way to do it. It's just, different things you have to take into account. And of course, everybody makes their own parts. I mean, parts are different engine mounts, conversion mounts. There's 101 different things. But I've read a lot about the LS1, conversion in a Chevelle. And I can show you the highlights. I can show you the things that I had to deal with, which were pretty significant actually. It's not easy. It took me all day yesterday just to get it set. And the motor's going to have to come out at least once, maybe twice more, because I had to end up cutting the firewall, the firewall, the tunnel a little bit to get it in there. So I have to rebuild all that. Let me show you. I think that's the easiest way. Look, guys, I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong. Well, I know I'm doing it right. The question is, how right? What's the best way to do this? Anyway, here's what we got so far. There's your LS1 motor. It's sitting in the Chevelle, okay? The front of the Chevelle. As you saw the other day, the firewall. I had already lowered the firewall. I inverted part of the upper portion of the firewall back, and I ended up welding it back to the floor thinking that was all I needed to do. Wrong. I had to cut a lot of the firewall out. But let me start to show you some of the things I had to deal with. First of all, I mean, here's your engine mounts. There are different engine mounts that Chevrolet made. One was for the 307 perch mount, and then the other would be for the 350 and the 396 427 big block. This is your 350 396 427 perch mount, and that's what you need. You cannot do it with any other perch mount on the car. You must have this. And the difference is, I'll actually put a picture of that someone had on the internet that demonstrates the differences on this video. But the difference here is the 350 396 has a slotted hole in it, but that's the only way you're going to get the engine mount in there. Now this is the bracket, the conversion bracket that I used. It's kind of hard to tell. It has a let's see if I can get a better picture of it. It has a protrusion out here. Now this has 3 positions: forward 1 inch, which pushes the motor back 1 inch, okay, from the standard small block. Then it has the small block, and then it has forward 1 inch. This one has to, when you do it in a Chevelle, you have to be back 1 inch from standard. Now, as you can see, there is literally no room here. There is no room to get this motor in here. Your engine pan, I don't even know if I can get it. Your engine pan is tight. I have a less than 1/4 of an inch all the way around to get this thing in place. Also, on the oil pan that I used was a Cts-V Oil Pan. Let's see if you can see this. I ended up having to, there was a boss right here. If you notice, there's a boss here, there's a boss there, there's a boss there, and there was another one right there. That boss has to be completely cut out. I've grinded it back. I'll end up, when I pull the motor out a second time, I'll get the rest of it. But that boss hits your frame. It also hits your emergency brake cable. The emergency brake cable has to be relocated to the front of the frame if you're going to get this motor in, because let me tell you something, it just will not go any other way. All right, so what else? I got the engine mounts. I talked about that boss. Let's see what else. I think that's about it on the front. Then you have to take a look at the cutout. Remember the firewall yesterday? I ended up having to cut it back out and raise it up a little higher. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. I cut it. I've inverted it. I've pushed it back, down, right, and then I cut it. That allows for the motor to go into the tunnel, and when you're installing it. This motor is a very tight motor. It wasn't designed for the Chevelle. Now, to give you an idea of what it looks like inside, yeah. Oh my gosh. You kind of feel like you're in a cave when you're inside this car working on it down here. You end up having to cut significantly on this firewall. Not the firewall so much. This is the tunnel. I had to cut, if you can see, 10 inches of the opening, okay, going across. I'm still going to have to trim it some more, you know, and I'll make it straight on both sides. But this is the minimum I think you have to cut if you're going to get this motor in here. And if you take a look closely, this is the heater box. What I did is I cut to the bottom of the heater box, okay, and I'm going to bring that out and then down in the front here. I'll show you when I rebuild this tunnel, but it's not going to be that's the last thing I'm going to worry about. Right now, I just want to get some other things done. I have to still set the shifter in place. I got to get the console and set the shifter in place, run the cable down for the transmission. That's going to be, you know, I mean, it's a custom job. It's a totally custom job. It wasn't designed for it, but I want that experience. I want the floor factory shifter if I can make it work on this car. Now, on the back of the transmission, where you have your transmission mount, let me see if I can show you this here. I have it. This is the transmission mount. This is the transmission mount here. Hold on, where the hell is it? Damn, I am blind as a bat. All right. This was welded here. Okay? I'm sorry, my apologies. It was welded like this on the factory Chevrolet. Okay? I had to cut this off the tongue, and I reversed the tongue, and also inverted upside down. To get it on the LS1, the 4L60, I will have to have it like this, and I'm going to have to fill both of these holes up and drill a new hole in the middle to support the engine mount. Here's a engine cross member from a F body, late model F body, a Z28. If you take a look at the bottom, you have one, it looks like 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch bolt, and that is what holds the engine mount, transmission mount, to the transmission mount on the new assembly. So this will be set on top of this. We won't know that till after I bolt this. We won't know the location of that till after I bolt this to the underneath of the car, okay? And there are multiple holes in the frame so that the cross member can go forward and back. So I have to find the optimum position. Then I have to degree the rear of the transmission to the differential. It's got to be the same angle, so that the pitch of the drive shaft isn't binding at all. It has to be at the same angle. Once I have it at the same angle, I will bolt the engine mount to the transmission. Then I will take this perch, bolt it to that, and weld it, tack weld it to here. Okay? Once it's tack welded, I'll take the transmission cross member off and weld it real good and then install it permanently. But there she is, babe. That's a lot of frickin' work right there. That's an incredible amount of work. That's one solid, hard working day. And the motor's got to come back out now and go back in. But it'll go back out. It'll all hook up. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I'll tell you what, she's a beast. I like that new motor. I like that LS1. All aluminum Corvette. 1998 is what I found that this motor was. It was, when I bought it, it was in a 2005 Corvette. But, and you know that because, and I don't know if you can see that, there are numbers here, computer engraved numbers on the side of the block. And that's like an engine VIN number, and you can determine where it was made, the year it was made, what kind of car it came out of, and what kind of motor it is. And this is a 5.7 motor, Corvette, 1998, out of the Kentucky. I forgot the name of the plant, but you know, they only build Corvettes there. But that's it so far, and I'll bring you back when I get more. I gotta tell you guys, it's a big job, and I sure hope that I'm doing it right. I think I'm going to handle it okay. I think it's okay. Just a slow process, you know. When you want to do something like this, you gotta take your time. And you know, if you have to do things multiple times, you have to do things multiple times. It's just the way it is. That's part of street riding, and that's where I'm at. Bring you back when I got more. Alrighty, thank you much. Turn this thing off now.